Welcome to the morning show. It's a Tuesday, and the time is 7:23. You know, again, if Faye was here, hey, 7:23, that's my birthday. It's June 14th. Absolutely. And we're going to have a lot of music on today's program, as we always do in the background there. That was the heartbeat of the Tri-County. Now, I'm going to be driving over to the Gulf gas station. Earlier this morning, I'm setting it up. Yes, the time travel. I'm going back in time. I was watching Morning Joe. You know, George Conway was on the show, and I recorded a little bit. And now I'm going to play it on the drive. Yeah, in mobile mode, this little conversation, talking head conversation. Here we go. Is George Conway. He could almost believe that he was a normal human being and just kind of look past the facts in front of him. And then he came to his senses. Ha, ha, ha. George Conway, husband of Kellyanne Conway. How did they kind of get along, you know, at home? Kellyanne Conway, the former spokesperson for Trump, and George Conway, the guy that set up the Lincoln Project, the one that's talking over me in the background. He's just talking and talking. He's a lawyer. That's what they do. And George Conway, again, one of the heads of the Lincoln Project, Republicans who do not support Trump. They say, we are Republicans and we are not supporting Trump. That was 4 or 5 years ago, folks. Had warning people about Trump, and the warning, well, it won a miss. They elected him. And, of course, now he claims, Trump, that he won the second election, which is false. Another one of his lies. He's had many of them, 30,573, according to the Washington Post. Now, do I have the database? Am I going to read all 30,573 lies? I am not. Just a big lie. That's Trump saying, it was me. It was rigged. It was stolen from me. Big whiner. Anyway, let's listen to George.
History, I'm sure. Given his pervasive lying and the degree to which it's been recorded by modern means of media. So
30,573 times. Didn't tell the truth, was dishonest, you know, and that's normal for Trump. For Trump, that's normal not to say the truth. In fact, if he said the truth, it would be abnormal for Trump.
I can say I was wrong because you made the wrong turn about 50 times or 100 times by the time we get to today. That's the way I could characterize it.
Denial is kind. I mean, there are some people he preys upon weak people who have weak character.
Right.
There are names I could say right now that he knows he can sort of get something.
I'll go ahead and say them, Mika. It'll be okay.
Time.
And runs them over.
Yeah.
And you're right, weak.
Really weak.
I won't go down the list.
I know.
It's
I'll go ahead, Joe.
Go down the list. I mean, there's obviously so much to say here, but I want to go back to Barr for 1 second. I mean, here's a guy that could have stayed out of the Trump White House and would have had a pretty good reputation, at least among Republican lawyers and the legal community in Washington, D.C. He decided to go back in regardless. And then you hear all of the things he said about Donald Trump, how he lived in an alternate reality. He did damage to the country. He can't be trusted. And then he says, yes, I'll vote for him again if he's a Republican nominee. I mean, if there's not a greater indictment that I've heard about the negative partisanship in Washington, D.C. in quite some time, I can't think of it. That's about as great of an indictment about how screwed up our two-party political system is.
Yeah, I remember when Barr was nominated. I remember all of us talking about that folks we respected were telling us he's normal. Speaking of Team Normal, he will help keep the president in a place where he can do the least damage. And that was the commonly held belief on Capitol Hill. And let's look at Team Normal for a minute, Joe. Let's look at, as George said, the arc of what happened during the Trump presidency. This is a classic tale as old as time of power over country, of party over country. And Team Normal includes most of the elected Republican officials in Washington, D.C. And all of them tried to ignore and obfuscate and deflect the lies and the terrible things that Trump did. And by the way, they go to meetings in the White House and come back laughing at how ignorant he was about basic public policy issues. They were all saying that he was a joke. They all kept quiet. And then there was and him setting up that this was going to be a rigged election with malice aforethought, as we would say in the criminal law. He set it up that it would be rigged. And then he called them to Washington and said it was going to be wild. And he lit the flame. And they all ran in fear that day for their lives. And then they all panicked. Team Normal panicked. And for one brief shining moment, they said what needed to be said about Donald Trump. Lindsey Graham said it. Mitch McConnell said it. Kevin McCarthy said it. And then, you know what happened? It faded. It faded, and all of a sudden, it was power over country again. And they sit there today, still cowering in front of this obvious fraud. And as George said, everything that we don't want our kids to be. It is astounding to me that there haven't been a larger group of Team Normal Republicans that have been willing to stand up for their country at this moment.
And Mika, you know the thing.
Absolutely astounding. Now, what is Team Normal? And what's the other? The other team is Team Wacky. Team far out extremist right winger. Who's heading up the Team Wacky? Well, they say it's Team Rudy Giuliani, who was cut adrift by Trump. Yes, longtime supporter of Trump, and of course Trump cut him adrift. Everyone knows about Rudy's drinking on election night. Rudy telling Trump, just go out there and declare victory in all the battleground states. Just say you won. Just set it up, say you won, and that anyone who disagrees with you is wrong. That there must have been, because you won, there must have been fraud. If they're saying that you didn't win, Mr. President should just say they're wrong and that there was widespread fraud. And as they said, Trump set this up weeks before the election. Our electoral process in the United States. That's what Trump was all about, because he knew he was going to lose to Biden. This was all widely known. And now all of the truth is coming to light thanks to the yeoman service provided by the House Select Committee. I got a shower from my day job. For those of you that haven't listened to my program, I'm an echo tech, a cardiac ultrasound tech upstate. I got to get dressed. I'll be right back. You're listening to The Morning Show. All right, there you have it. Now, some words were missed there, and one of those was undermined. Trump undermining our democracy, undermining our electoral process. There's an old expression that in order for evil to succeed, good men would say nothing at all. And it could also be a good woman would say nothing at all. And so I do on my own show. I certainly do. So too does Morning Joe. Mika Brzezinski, absolutely. Willie Geist on the show this morning as well. Claire McCaskill of Missouri, saying the truth and showing bravery. That's what you need to do. If you stay completely apathetic, if you say nothing at all, not a good thing. Although the song's fantastic. This one's by Gustavo Trabian, an acoustic cover version of the great song from the motion picture Notting Hill.
It's amazing how you can speak right to my heart. Without saying a word, you can light up the dark. Try to make never a fool. You say it best when you say nothing at all.
Gustavo Trabian with the huge hit song from the 1999 film Notting Hill, starring Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts, of course, a cover of that done by Ronan Keating. Back to the heartbeat of the Tri-County. Yes, there is. A better variety, better music at the heartbeat of the Tri-County. I'll be right back in a moment. You're listening to The Morning Show. All right, so we see here from the USA Today that former Attorney General Bill Barr told Trump his fraud claims were bullshit. How about that? You know, Bill Barr, of course, folks, this has been widely known since the very ending days of the Trump presidency that Bill Barr wasn't buying into the big lie. He looked into it, found there to be no evidence. And, of course, this thing's been litigated in like 60-plus battleground states all across our land. This should be widely known exactly what Bill Barr said. Bullshit. He said it already. He said it before. Absolutely. He said they were baseless claims made by Trump. And he said that before the select committee. That's right. He says here, key points from this article, USA Today, which I'm not going to read before my job. It's 20 minutes to 8. I go to work at 8. Barr said he told his secretary that he may get fired after saying there was no widespread fraud. Yeah, he might get fired because that's not what Trump wanted to hear. He wanted, again, the big lie supported, and he was totally against any kind of team normal or anyone with actual factual information like Bill Barr. Furthermore, Barr said Trump had become detached from reality if he truly believed the voter fraud claims. And that really goes to the heart of the thing. Did Trump truly believe it? Now, some of the evidence being released now by the select committee suggests that he knew that he lost, but he chose to, as the former senator from Missouri said this morning, with malice aforethought, chose in advance to lie about the thing. There's a difference between if Trump was like seriously deranged mentally and he actually thought he won versus knowing that he lost and telling the opposite tale for fundraising opportunities and for his own political advantage. It also says here, another dot point, Barr said he left the Trump administration in part because of the baseless 2020 election claim. So again, I thank the Select Committee, and there's been so much information coming out. None of it really that surprising. Now, Rudy Giuliani, he was, according to what they said this morning on Morning Joe, the head of Team Wacky. Wacky guy, Rudy Giuliani, as you know, cut adrift by Trump and Team Wacky a while back. Of course, his drinking problem. It came up. It certainly did come up in the show and in stories that I've read in the past. And yes, certain videos that I've done in the past that are now in my video vault. Absolutely. And so, yeah, Rudy, well, I guess no longer working for Trump. And again, the Trump family itself, they want nothing to do with Rudy Giuliani. But speaking of Rudy Giuliani, again, he was very high, as Steely Dan says in this song. That's basically the thing. Black Cow.
In the corner of my eye, I saw you in Rudy's. You were very high. You were high. It was a crying disgrace. They saw you there on the counter by your keys. Was there a book of numbers and your remedies? Surely we'll screen out the sorrow, but where are you tomorrow? I can't cry anymore. Break away, just when it seems so clear that it's over now. Drink your big black cow and get out of here. Down the green street, there you go, looking so irate, and they tell you so. You should know how all the pros play the game. Like a gangster on the run, you will stagger home to your present one. I am the one who must make everything right. Talk it out till daylight. I don't care anymore. Are you mine? Drink your big black cow and get out of here.
You know who else can get out of here? El Linwood attorney. I'll have a story about him tonight. I don't read stories, before I get them. El Linwood. He is now apparently espousing additional conspiracy theories. Now he's a flat earther, despite all the evidence that the earth is in fact round, actually close 3D, close to the size of the shape of a sphere. Yeah, the earth is actually round. It's like a little marble floating in space, kind of a bluish marble owing to our great oceans, and sailing in orbit around the sun. Apparently, El Linwood, the conspiracy guy that said the Chief Justice was a murderous pedophile, he doesn't believe in a round earth.
Just when it seems so clear that it's over now, drink your big black cow and get out of here.
Man, that tune is so outrageous, man. I mean, in a good way, cool. Whereas Trump's false claims are outrageous in a bad way, totally different use of the word. Now, I was going to do Peg, also from that great album, Asia, and talk a little bit about Gary Katz and what he did back in the day for Steely Dan, except I got to go to my job. I'll be back either at lunch or after work. You're listening to The Morning Show. All right, I'll turn down my AC a little bit. This song, I listened to a little of the first verse of the song. It sounds like a song where a guy has been given a terminal diagnosis. And I guess a friend says, what are you going to do? He says, I'm going to go skydiving. I'm going to go climb the Rocky Mountains. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. That's the right spirit of the thing. While you're alive, take every opportunity to use that time. Do those things you've always dreamed of. Now, going into my mailbag, I sometimes do this into my mailbag. What's this? From today, from YouTube. My video's been blocked. Oh no, my video's been blocked in YouTube. What one? Friday, June the 10th. What was the issue? Let's see. Copyrighted content. They say One of These Nights, a great song by the Eagles. Yeah, it came up. I remember now. Yeah. And One of These Nights, great tune. I usually take it from their album, Their Greatest Hits. I love singing Eagles music, but I have since found that any Eagle song is going to get blocked pretty much, although that does not explain why the song Do Something, right after Joe Biden says we have to do something about gun violence. Yeah, in the speech that he made, I made it, I recorded him saying it, and then I did a Do Something with the Eagles, Timothy B. Schmidt on lead from their album, Long Road Out of Eden, and for whatever reason, it didn't get blocked. There must be a problem there with the song detection software at YouTube for not picking that one up. But yeah, they knocked me down, and so it has to be trimmed out. And so that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to trim it out so that the show for Friday, June 10th can make it to YouTube one way or the other. Either way, it's going to get done. I see here the story for tonight. Lin Wood, pro-Trump attorney, is a flat earther. Who knew? I mean, folks, that's not a big surprise. If you know Lin Wood and the kind of things he said, like he wanted to see Pence shot by firing squad, or going after the Chief Justice of the United States, Chief Justice John Roberts, calling him a murderer and a pedophile, claiming that he had something to do with the death of Justice Antonin Scalia, which was by natural causes. If you knew about him getting thrown out of his law society down there in Georgia and all the wacky, extreme far-right things that Lin Wood has said, then you would know that him being a flat earther is not a real big surprise at all. Now, again, speaking of Timothy B. Schmidt, as I did, and I don't think this one's going to get blocked. I don't think it's going to. That's Eagles songs. This is from his solo career. Again, I've been talking about it. Folks, buy the album today. It's called Day by Day. Buy the album today. Let's see if we can get him up here on the...
I'm a simple man, and I'm on my way to whatever lies ahead while aging day by day. And I don't know where I'll be next, or if I'll be at all. I'm not privy to life's protocol. And I'm not seeking gold, I don't look for fame. That's all in my past now, it's another game. Though I no longer need the things I did before, I can't help but think there's so much more. Tell me what you're thinking, yes, I want to know. Maybe you could stay, I am so alone. Lay down upon this bed. I feel heavy and the night is taking over. There's no moon up in the sky, we can sleep until it's light. Let the darkness be our playground. visit warm and happy whenever I can. It's no promise, but it's my loose plan. Tell me anything if you'd be so kind. Take me away from this restless mind. Lay you down upon this bed. Today has been a long and endless journey. If you think that it's alright, we could dream right through this night. Let the darkness be our blanket.
Timothy B. Schmidt, of course, famous for his work with the Eagles. I'll have a song by one of his bandmates with the Eagles in just a moment. You're listening to The Morning Show. Well, I'll tell you, I was going to go Don Henley with the Sunset Grill, but then, seeing what had happened to that version of that rendition of Sunset Grill that the Monsignor Jim Vaughn played a couple of weeks on his show when it got cut out, I guess Mr. Henley's procedures or protocol in terms of getting blocked in YouTube are the same. So I'm going to go Joe Walsh with a great song from his solo career. And no, it's not Rocky Mountain Way. It is not. Yeah, that was an illusion. Basically, a text to my phone, surrender or ... And then it says pro-Russian separatists. Oh, so it's a story apparently about Putin and his naked aggression against the people of Ukraine. It's surrender or die. Pro-Russian separatists issue stark warning to remaining Ukrainian fighters, after the last bridge entering, I'm not going to mention which city. Does it matter which city? It's that these people, again, the Russians under the dictator Vladimir Putin and their naked aggression against the people of Ukraine, I thank them for their bravery. Of course, President Zelensky leading them against these people and their hostility. Obviously, what is that? Surrender or die. That's complete nonsense. We'll get it back there to Joe Walsh with this great tune And boy, doesn't it seem like that way sometimes? Life, it just seems like, wow, this is like crazy stuff going on. But yeah, I've had those stories before about war. And again, Putin and his very dangerous policies over there. Yes, I support the Ukrainian people. So too does the United States government, unless that's changed. I hope not.
I just can't help the feeling of living a life of illusion.
All right, Joe Walsh with that huge hit. Now to prove his point, I'll go to the heartbeat of the Tri-County and pick up the news, top of the hour.
Deal clarifies the definition of a federally licensed firearms dealer, closes the boyfriend loophole, enhances background checks for gun purchasers under the age of 21, invests in the adoption and expansion of state red flag laws, and provides resources to states to help ensure deadly weapons are kept out of the hands of deeply troubled individuals. It also provides major investments to make mental health and behavioral health services more accessible and invest in programs to help institute safety measures in and around schools.
Senator Gillibrand said that this package of bills is the most significant package of gun safety legislation that Congress has acted on in about 30 years. The village of Unadilla will hold their annual Flag Day parade tonight. Unadilla Fire Department spokesman Jeff Jones explains.
All right, thank you, Rob Ray. And I just want to say thanks to Congress. Thanks for the United States Senate, the leadership of Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, as well as his Republican colleague on the other side, Senator Cornyn out of Texas. I thank them for getting together. Now, as Senator Murphy said, the package that they're passing isn't everything I would have wanted, but it's a great start. What I would have wanted I put out there in Facebook. I actually explained my position on common sense gun violence legislation. They've done a great job with this great start. Again, as he said, we haven't seen legislation like this for 30 or 40 years. And it's only too bad it takes tragedy to bring about this kind of change. But sometimes that's exactly what it takes. I'll be right back. You're listening to The Morning Show. It's lunchtime with the oldies with Craig Stevens at the heartbeat of the Tri-County. The old blue suede shoes, you know. Don't you step on my own blue shoes. That's a fantastic song right there.
With the oldies, WCDO. Good afternoon. I'm Craig Stevens. The sun is shining again. So far, so good this week in regards to weather. And so far, so good with our oldies. Because look at this, coming up for you. I've got a great song written by Bruce Springsteen for Patti Smith in the early 70s called Because the Night. That's coming up for you. I've got Ike and Tina Turner. We've got the Beatles on the way today. The Beach Boys, Marvin Gaye, loaded with great hits. And our Lunchtime with the Oldies program brought to you by Corbin Curley and certified financial planner Ed Curley with Wells Fargo Advisors, Route 7 Oneonta. For professional financial and investment advice, call them. They will give you a free review of your finances. The number to call is 433-0333. That's 433-0333. When I come back, I've got a great one. We'll come back with the Beatles, and then we'll go into the Patti Smith song. But what I want you to do is when you hear Because the Night again, you've heard it many times, I'm sure, in your life. Picture a Springsteen-type song, if you know Springsteen enough. And if that isn't a Springsteen song, now that you know he wrote it for her, then, you know, I don't know what is. All right, back with the Beatles right after this.
Choosing the right dentist for your family.
All right, that was awesome. You know, those of you that follow my show, you know of my love for the Beatles and all their music. However, similar category to the Eagles. Absolutely similar category. If you do any Beatles tune, they'll nail you, and your video will be rejected. So I guess I'm out of luck. This is Bruce Springsteen. from his greatest hits album, My Hometown. Fantastic song. I wonder if I could peek in on Lunchtime with the Oldies, see what kind of song it is.
What can I do? What can I be?
Oh yeah, that's a great one. Boy, it's too bad I can't sing it. That'll do it for my lunchtime, folks. Again, I'll be back after work. You're listening to The Morning Show. Okay, now on with the stories. And ground control to Major Lin Wood. Ground control to Major Lin Wood. There must be a serious problem. You have a serious problem, L. Lin Wood. You absolutely do. And all of your wild, extreme, right-wing conspiracy views. Have I had Lin Wood stories before? Sure I have. The guy who said that he wanted Pence shot by firing squad. The guy that said the Chief Justice of the United States, John Roberts, was a murderer and a pedophile. And other wacky right-wing conspiracy tales. Did you know that he suggested that the Chief Justice had something to do with Justice Antonin Scalia's death, which was of natural causes? There's been no proof of any foul play in Justice Scalia's death. A made-up story by wacky guy L. Lin Wood. So this one's written by Benjamin Hart for the Intelligencer, a fine source of news. Who are you going to believe? Lin Wood or NASA? Let me think about that for a while. Lin Wood or NASA? The National Aeronautics Space Administration. Who would I believe? Let me think about that for a while.
This is ground control to Major
Lin Wood. You're clearly gone way out over the edge of your fake flat earther philosophy. You've fallen off the edge of the earth. When you think about it, it's not that big of a jump from believing that a cabal of Chinese communists swung the 2020 election, or Italians, if you will. Yeah, it just depends who they want to blame on the extreme right for Trump failing, for Trump losing the 2020 election. They pointed to a number of different countries like China, like Italy, with no proof whatsoever, and many other fantastical tales. And again, this has been, it's been adjudicated in some 60 trials in battleground states all across this fine land by jurists, in many cases those appointed by Trump himself, and all of them losers for Trump and his followers, including crazy guy L. Lin Wood. So, it is not that big of a jump from believing that a cabal of Chinese communists swung the 2020 election by tinkering with voting machines. Now, how they did it, no one seems to know, to believing that the earth is not round. Now, L. Lin Wood, the high-profile, nonsense-spouting attorney who became central to former President Trump's efforts to overthrow the election, has added flat earther to his increasingly unimpressive resume. In a message posted to Telegram, now again, folks, you have to understand, some of these people on the far right, including Trump himself, have been kicked off of Twitter, kicked off of Facebook. They had no alternative but to go to Telegram and other extreme right-wing social media platforms out there in the zeitgeist. Now, of course, the MyPillow guy has promised his own platform to rival that of Twitter and YouTube. His platform will be the biggest of all time, the MyPillow guy. Boy, now, my last story about L. Lin Wood was the MyPillow guy versus L. Lin Wood, because Lin Wood very upset that the MyPillow guy's plan did not come to fruition. His prognostications, the MyPillow guys, failed when he said that Trump would be returned to power under his lawsuit. He said the Supreme Court would take it up, the MyPillow guy did, and that they would vote 9-0 to reinstall Trump to power, and Biden would be moved right out of there in a 9-0 vote by the Supreme Court. Another extreme white fantasy tale. Didn't happen in August. Then he said, it'll be the fall for sure. For sure it didn't happen. And he said it'll be this year. It's not going to happen this year or next. If Trump wants to run again, he'll have to announce and run again, just like any other regular candidate would do. Okay, so Lin's message in Telegram, he said, every word in the Holy Bible is true. Is the earth flat or is it a spinning ball? Question mark, question mark, question mark. This is a question that for most was definitively answered some time ago. But L. Lin Wood disagrees with the consensus. In a follow-up post, Wood wrote that an unidentified enemy has been attacking him for his unorthodox theories. Okay, folks, it's not unidentified. I've been attacking L. Lin Wood, not physically, not in any inappropriate way, but certainly well within the bounds of my show, The Morning Show, going after extremists on the far right, him, the MyPillow guy, Trump himself, whoever. It's just one of those wacky tales. The other day I had this wacky tale of a pastor. Yeah, pastor, what's his name? Dawes? Down there in the Fort Worth area who claimed that all homosexuals should be lined up against a wall and shot in the back of the head. Another extremist of that ilk. And so I'm more than happy to say I went after that pastor as well for his complete nuttiness. In the background, we're joined by Sir Elton John. And sorry seems to be the hardest word. It's a fine song. And it won't get blocked down by YouTube. I happen to know Elton John songs. I've done a number of them, sent them up to YouTube. And they were not, they were not banned. So that's fine. Anyway, he says, the enemy does not believe in the word of God, but rather chooses to believe in NASA. Triple exclamation point. He of the triple exclamation point. Again, I'm a Christian man. I'm a Christian man. I certainly am. I believe in my heavenly Savior, Jesus Christ, my Lord. And, this guy, and I also do not think there's any problem with believing in science. And I fully support NASA. The days of NASA and their supremacy in the space program. I could talk about the Apollo program, Gemini. I could talk about what have you, Mercury, you bet. Talk about the space shuttle. Of course, nowadays we have, basically rich tourism flights led by Musk and, Jeff Bezos and other people. And then the days of American exceptionalism in space, at least so far as I can tell, have gone kaput. Now, whatever happened with Musk purchasing Twitter? Folks, he was just messing around. He just wanted to see how people would react, So when he said he was letting Trump and a bunch of extremists back online on Twitter, and then he just kind of smirked and gleefully walked away from it, he was just kidding, folks. Musk ain't doing nothing but making a big sound out there. And the press, they're like with bated breath. They follow everything Elon Musk says. If he threatens to buy Twitter and to let all the extremists, it's going to be like the Wild West. I say, yeehaw, Twitter's going to be a lot of fun. Again, folks, a disclaimer. I'm not on Twitter. There are people sure that are, including the Twittering president himself. I've never been on Twitter. I've been on Facebook. I have friends. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, we're not done with this story by far. No, this is a long one. I'm excited about it. Okay, so we talked about his belief that the earth is completely flat. Now, why doesn't Linwood get out there on a ship and prove this fact? Just sail out the ocean, whichever, Atlantic, Pacific, and just keep going and see what happens. Maybe he'll fall over that cliff that he says is out there. In a follow-up post, Wood, again, posting out there on Telegram because he's been banned from every other reasonable mainstream social media platform. So he's way out there posting stuff, and people are picking it up. I don't know why. I don't know, because it's funny, I suppose. That's probably why they pick it up. Now, L. Linwood also has some doubts about the moon landing. There's another one, folks. Again, it's complete nonsense. Neil Armstrong, July 20th, 1969, with the great landing. I could tell you all about it. Of course, Buzz Aldrin and Neil landed really at the same time. But Neil was the first one out. He was the commander of the mission. And that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. But according to L. Linwood and those of his ilk that do not believe in a moon landing, and there are a bunch of them out there, it's very strange individuals, despite all the photographic video evidence, all the great documentaries that have been done on the moon landing, all of the news stories. There's still some very strange people out there with some silly ideas in their brain. It's got to be fake, because does that seem to be the easiest thing to think? I mean, is that the most logical thing, that it was all fake? What did they do with all the people? Did they get rid of them? All the people? All the evidence, It's a bunch of nonsense. Talk to the astronauts, Continue with Elton John. Posted out there by Piffle Creed. Don't let the sun go down on me. Though it may seem hard to believe, Linwood was once a highly respected attorney. It's kind of like Rudy Giuliani, once highly respected, like 9/11, and then Rudy Giuliani spun into Trump's orbit and crashed and burned. You guys know all about Rudy and the nonsense that he's been up to. They said that, in the select committee, they said that there's a normal team and an abnormal team led by Rudy Giuliani. Boy, oh boy, I have some great Rudy Giuliani stories over the past, couple of years or so, and Some really great stuff, unbelievable stuff of him on election night and what he was doing, telling Trump, first of all, drinking way too much, and then telling Trump, just go out there and say you won all of them. Just say you won the whole thing, and say that anyone saying anything else, why they must be bad people, they must be stealing the election from you. Just go out and tell them you won. And folks, that didn't work either. That was the first trick they tried, to say you won trick, you know. And then, of course, sure, the failed insurrection January 6th. You got Peter Navarro and the Green Bay sweep play, another failed play, and you've got other people in the Justice Department, very dangerous individuals trying to sign on to this big lie, and others fighting back on it. It's all been laid out there. I've been talking about this stuff for years. There are some of you out there that do not believe it at all. Well, that's your own call. You know, look at the evidence, look at the facts presented, for example, and not the only example, but by the Select Committee. And then, do some thinking about what you think probably happened there. Now, again, he was once highly respected, but no more. Absolutely. He represented the guy that was accused of the bombing in Atlanta, 1996 Olympics. That's a long, long time ago, folks. A very long, long time ago. And that's the end of the story. All right. So the guy, not surprisingly, does not believe in a moon landing, believes that the earth is flat. And now it's time for musical interlude. You know what? I would go with Man on the Moon by R.E.M. It's a no-brainer to me. Of course, the great song featured in the film, you know, the same title, as well as a fine movie about Andy Kaufman, and excellently acted by Jim Carrey. So yeah, Man on the Moon. There was one. There is now. Look up. You can see his face on the moon.
Here's a little ghost for the alcohol. Yeah, 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 yeah. truck stop instead of St. Peter's. Yeah. Mystery McCoffin's gone whistle. Yeah. Andy, did you hear about this one? Tell me, are you locked in the box? Andy, are you goofing on Elvis Luger?
So the United States, we put 12 men on the surface of the moon between July 20th, 1969 and the early 70s is a great thing. Man on the moon, we absolutely did. And, you know, there's some other things I'm thinking about, but I'm just going to let it go. I'll be right back. You're listening to The Morning Show. Yeah, I got the Masters music going in the background. I'm going to talk about golf in a second. But still, going back to that whole moon thing and the dark side of the moon, no, not the Pink Floyd album. I was watching Robert Strange McNamara, that's right, the Secretary of Defense under LBJ and Kennedy. And, well, he was pointing out something, and I thought I'd bring it. No, I watched this thing called The Fog of War. It's basically him talking and explaining the things that had gone on in his career. Well, this whole thing about the Soviets conducting secret Soviet nuclear tests behind on the dark side of the moon, that's what some of the people there at the Department of Defense, because he said to them, in terms of, you know, the ABN Treaty, where are they going to, because they said they were going to cheat. The Soviets were definitely going to cheat. And he said, well, how? Where were they going to do it? So the people that worked for him, they said, well, on the dark side of the moon, behind the moon. And he says, you guys are completely crazy. What do you mean the dark side of the moon? And yeah, they were. There was nothing to it. It's just, you know, he challenged them, and that's what they came up with, the dark side of the moon. Now, how does he disprove that? You know, it's just, well, he disproved it by common sense. Some things you don't have to make a big experiment at. If someone says something to you so utterly fantastic that it cannot possibly be true, there's a good chance that it isn't true at all. And so now getting back to the golf, those of you that follow my show, or maybe you follow golf, maybe you're aware of the fact that this is a U.S. Open week. United States Open Golf Championship from Brookline Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts. I mean, the country club. History of, some people say the beginning of American golf was there at Brookline. I could talk about Francis Ouimet, except I don't have that kind of time on my lunch to talk about Ouimet, so I'm not going to do it. But in terms of Phil, yes, I've had the stories. It was really Phil Mickelson. Now, everyone, I'm a huge fan of Phil. You know, a lot of people love Phil. I love Phil. But lately, let's face it, he stuck his foot in his mouth. And to me, he made a bad move going with the Saudis. I stand against it on human rights grounds. I certainly do. Not only what they did to Khashoggi, we all know about that, but there are other human rights abuses. Now, 9/11 people have had some concerns for Phil Mickelson, and he had a press conference, and it looked very uncomfortable for Phil. I didn't watch it. I was doing my job doing cardiac echo. That's right, doing ultrasound exams. And I did not have the time to watch Phil's press conference. I read about these things after they happen. I'm like, yeah, well, that's pretty much the way things have been with Phil struggling. And I'm not talking about the man's golf. Now, the U.S. Open, that's really that one prize that Phil's missing from his resume badly. Those of you that watch golf, you know. How many was it? 5, 6, where he came in second place. I think of the great battles. Retief Goosen at Shinnecock, you know. I certainly do. late great Payne Stewart at Pinehurst in North Carolina. I mean, there's been so many great battles. Phil has been right in the middle of them, Winged Foot, of course, the 18th hole and the big banana ball left into the grandstands, Now for Phil, that for me would be for me it would be more like a duck hook, way left. For Phil, way left is a big banana ball slice out there. And of course, the championship in which Monty also fell, Colin Montgomery, and it was Jeff Ogilvy. You guys know this information off the top of your head. Now, this guy, Mickelson, let's read about this press conference and see what happened. So the story is from, it's from Newsbreak app. One of golf's most prideful champions, Phil Mickelson, appears despondent over his LIV golf decision. Maybe having second thoughts, perhaps, Phil? Now, it might be too late. I think he might have already taken the Saudis' money. Some $200 million is what they claimed. Now, Jack Nicklaus, the greatest golfer of all time, was offered, in the story I said, he was offered $100 million to head up the thing. How come Jack was only offered $100 million, whereas Phil was offered given $200 million? And God only knows how many hundreds of millions Greg Norman for basically spearheading the thing, going after the PGA Tour in heated battle out there. They certainly is. This is becoming quite the thing. So the story is written by Kyle Porter for CBS Golf. Yeah, Newsbreak, they got it from CBS Golf, and there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, CBS, the host of The Masters. That's right. Now, since golf restarted amid COVID, there have been plenty of unbelievable moments, but the most stunning of all, the one that would have seemed almost unfathomable at any point over the last 30 years, took place during a quiet Monday afternoon, coincidentally, just miles from Ground Zero in New York City, of perhaps the biggest rebellion in post-Reformation world history. Oh, let's not get over the top, writer. This is, it's golf. Let's put it in its context. It's golf is a game. So I don't know if you want to go that over the top with it, but I guess the guy wants to. Now, Phil, a lefty and one of the most decorated champions and greatest characters in the modern sports era, and someone who has always treated pride and competitiveness as a currency in which he deals, appeared ashamed of himself. At least that's what Kyle says. I guess he watched it. I guess he did, since he's reporting on it, and that was his impression. He appeared a little ashamed to be up there answering questions, particularly from 9/11 families. Now, Phil stumbled his way through an array of questions during his U.S. Open press conference at the Country Club on Monday, offering rote answers and half-truths about his present situation and future plans. Even though he spoke for 30 minutes and uttered nearly 3,000 words, he said nothing meaningful. A must-see pre-major championship press conferences somehow became increasingly difficult to watch. Maybe cringeworthy? Perhaps. Why, though? Why? Phil himself perhaps provided that answer when he was asked why he ran the risk of being banned by the PGA Tour so he could join LIV Golf, the Saudi Golf League. Why did he trade competition for exhibition? Why did he reportedly help write the operating agreement for a league funded by the government of Saudi Arabia, a government with many, many human rights abuses and a record of the same, which seems even less concerned with a business plan than the startups to which it has often been compared? Phil said, I think that there's an obvious incredible financial commitment. I guess I could read incredible financial commitment means they're paying me a lot. I guess that's what that means by their commitment. Now, he could have stopped there, but he decided to continue. He said, but more than that, for all the players involved and everyone involved, there are other factors that with fewer tournaments, it allows me to have more balance in my life. It allows me to do things that are off the golf course I've always wanted to do. Now, some of this is perhaps true. Definitely the first part, but Mickelson delivered it with the conviction and confidence of his statue that sits in the World Golf Hall of Fame. Lefty didn't even appear to believe what he was saying. He put a price on his pride as a competitor and an athlete, and somebody bought it for the purpose of wielding his name, image, and likeness for their own ambitions. I learned the word the other day. I told Faye about it. It's called sports washing, You get to, well, not you, but the Saudi government gets to take a nice, luxurious bath in these elite golfers and their legacy and reputation. And what happens on the other side of the equation? Well, if the Saudis gain from the publicity, from this bath, this sports washing, guess who loses? That's right, the players that have signed on to the thing, and they knew that going in. Now, if these are the media rights that so rankled Phil, let's hope he priced them high enough. That price tag was surely high, reportedly $200 million, for somebody who has undoubtedly made at least twice that over the last 3 decades. The going rate for one of the 10 best players in golf history to box up what he always loved about the sport and ship it to somebody who apparently needs it, like the Saudis, more than he does. Perhaps Lefty believes he'll still be afforded the ability to compete at the highest level at major championships. But the man who spoke Monday had the look of somebody who didn't care whether it was true or not. It wasn't supposed to be this way. The focus on Phil as he enters the 2022 United States Open Championship should be a tussle with his white whale. We should instead be discussing how he's going to ever win a U.S. Open. And that's really what it should be all about, is discussing it from a golf standpoint. That's right. Now, instead, Phil walked to the microphone with the hangdog look of a man who traded something he didn't want to lose for something he'll never be able to keep. Gone was the bravado that has become as much a part of who he is as any shot shape or on-course strategy he's deployed over the years. This moment in time was bereft of a man who has always desired to be at the center of the golf universe. Instead, Lefty looked as if he'd rather be almost anywhere else, saying, any decision that you make in your life that's purely for money usually doesn't end up... I'm sorry, that wasn't Phil. That was Rory McIlroy, who you might be aware won last week's actual real golf tournament, PGA Tour golf tournament. Rory, the winner of the Canadian Open. Rory said, any decision that you make in your life that's purely for money usually doesn't end up going the right way. Obviously, money is a deciding factor in a lot of things in this world, but if it's purely for money, it never seems to go the way you want it to. Now, that reality seems to have come to bear in Phil Mickelson's life. French theologian John Calvin once wrote that man's nature is a perpetual factory of idols. The mind begets an idol and the hand gives it birth. Now, whether Phil, when he took his talents to LIV Golf Investments, was in desperate need of money, like many have reported, or simply desired $200 million to add to his coffers, is unknown. However, what's obvious is the cost of being the de facto spokesman for a sham league, and it seems to be the burden that he is carrying. It's extremely difficult to square the man we watched Monday with the man who won the PGA Championship at Kiowa Island last year. Now, here's what Phil said after that absurd victory over Brooks Koepka and Louis Oosthuizen, which doubled as one of the greatest weekends ever in golf. My desire to play is the same. I've never been driven by exterior things. I've always been intrinsically motivated because I love to compete. I love playing the game. I love having opportunities to play against the best at the highest level. That's what drives me. And I think that's what it is, the belief that I could still do it inspired me to work harder. I just didn't see why it couldn't be done. It just took a little bit more effort. Now, here's the thing. Phil wasn't being disingenuous, nor was he weaving a tale for the purposes of placating the media. The logic goes like this. You absolutely cannot win a major championship in this era as a 50-year-old man unless your desire to compete and your pride in being a champion is comically high. Mickelson was always the silent assassin Tiger Woods never purported himself to be. While Tiger visually showed you the exact way he wanted to render you unconscious, Phil moved in silence but had no less desire to carve up the PGA Tour fields using his 3-iron as a scalpel than the 15-time major winner, Tiger, to whom he's always been compared. Lefty may have held a thumb out for the public to ogle, but it was always a cloak for his other hand, which held a middle finger to his competitors behind his back. There is more logic to be found here. Lesser champions than Lefty might appear less shameful over their decisions because They never had it in them to be the once proud contender Mickelson has proven to be. Lefty has turned a lot of would-be fans against him in recent days, from his comments about scary mother effers to the ongoing war he has, in which McIlroy and Justin Thomas are ostensibly his opponents. He has become the villain many always believed him to be. The saddest part of it all is that the competitor inside of him is crushed by this in a way the likes of Bryson DeChambeau would never understand. There's a difference between being great at golf and giving your heart to the sport. DeChambeau is the former. Mickelson is very much the latter. But, as Will Knights pointed out, even Mickelson might be rooting against himself at this point. No one knows what Lefty is feeling internally, but it's obvious what we saw Monday. A man ashamed of his choices, ashamed of the position which he's put himself and the sport. He was asked how he would explain his position, his decision to 9/11 Families United, which has spoken out against this Saudi-backed golf league. While he offered empathy and then sympathy, he provided no actual answer to the question. Mickelson's made some absolutely correct points, many of them, in fact, about the PGA Tour and professional golf as a whole, but he sure doesn't seem proud of how he's gone about implementing his plan. Perhaps behind the scenes, this is not true. Perhaps he's been yucking it up and carrying himself like the gregarious, hustling great he's always been. That certainly wouldn't square with the man who held court, if you can call it that, in the first press conference of this 2022 U.S. Open. The man who looked like a silhouette of his once proud self, more a cardboard cutout than the larger-than-life character he's been from his first day on the PGA Tour. There are several lessons to be learned here. Though someone's services can be bought and sold, you can't commercialize the inner being. The emotions of the heart do not deal in economics. Mickelson is reportedly once again private jet rich, but the price he paid to get there was exorbitant. What's been missed along the way as the LIV Saudi Golf Tour war has played out in recent days is this. Though there are plenty of things money can buy, there are many more important things it cannot. The problem for Mickelson, the richer one, becomes, and the more idols one hearts create, the harder it is to tell the difference. All right, that's a great story once again from CBS Golf and written by Kyle Porter. Now, as a guy likes to talk about the heart a lot, Kyle there, and I'm just going to basically follow it up with a song. Yes, it's musical interlude time now, and Jackson Browne is always welcome on the program with his great song, In the Shape of a Heart, and that's the one. Now, for those of you that don't know, it's also a fantastic walking song. Want to get in shape? You start walking to this thing.
It was a ruby that she wore on a chain around her neck, in the shape of a heart, in the shape of a heart. Was the time I won't forget, for the sorrow and regret, and the shape of a heart, and the shape of a heart. I guess I never knew what she was talking about. I guess I never knew that she was living that. She will speak of love, don't know what left to give her. Wait around for the one who fits like a glove. Speak in terms of belief and belonging. Try to fit something to belonging. People speak of love. There was a hole left in the wall from some ancient fight, about the size of a fist. Something gone that had missed. There were other holes as well, some, far too many to repair in the time that we were there. People speak of love, don't know what they're thinking of. Reach out to each other through the push and shove. Speak in terms of the light and the learning. Try to think of a word for the burning. Keep it up, you try so hard to keep the light from coming apart. Never know what reaches and faults are concealed in the shape of a heart. In the shape of a heart. In the shape of a heart. Was the ruby that she wore on the stand beside the bed in the hour before dawn, when I knew she was gone, and I held it in my hand for a little while, dropped it into the wall, I let it go and let it fall.
Jackson Browne, The Shape of a Heart. I'll be back with the closing number in a moment. You're listening to The Morning Show. All right, continuing now with the show, and as I promised, the final number. Yeah, this is Peter Frampton. Frampton comes alive at the heartbeat of the Tri-County. This is the tune where he starts off saying, I want you to love me. That song, great tune. I'm not going to do a Frampton number. Not that I have anything. I have had Peter Frampton numbers on this show before. But just to pick one, I'm going to go with Jackson Browne. Obviously, we had a song in The Shape of a Heart earlier. And in mobile mode. Yeah, I'm going in mobile mode. But, from where to where? Well, I'm going home, And when? Well, it's the 14th of June. Thank you for listening to today's morning show. This show will just end upon completion of Jackson's song.
I'm gonna rent myself a house in the shade of the freeway. Gonna pack my lunch in the morning and go to work each day. And when the evening Amen. I wanna know what became of the changes we waited for love to bring. Were they only the fitful dreams of some greater awakening? I farewell the time going by. They say in the end it's a wink of an eye. Come streaming in, get up and do it again. Amen. Caught between the longing for love and the struggle for the legal tender, where the sirens sing and the church bells ring and the judgment pounds a fender. Dream of the fight, fast asleep at the traffic light, and the children solemnly wait for the ice cream thunder. Out into the cool of the evening strolls the pretender. He knows that all his hopes and dreams begin there. I'm gonna find myself a girl who can show me what love means, and we'll fill in the missing colors in each other's paint by number dreams. And we'll put our dark glasses on, and we'll make love until our strength is gone. When the morning light comes streaming in, we'll get up and do it again. Get up again. I'm gonna be happy and struggle for the legal tender. We'll be devastating, lay their claim to the heart and soul of the spender, and believe in whatever may lie in those things that money can buy. For true love can never be contender. Are you there? Say a prayer for the pretender. We started out so young and strong, only to surrender.